Hi, this is Harriet Grayson, your host and producer of Community Culture Showcase. And it's almost springtime. We can feel it. We can see it. There's actually sometimes, if you look at the plants, they're actually starting to flower. It's almost here. And springtime and the arts go hand in hand together. So we welcome springtime, and let me tell you about some wonderful, wonderful art and cultural activities that are going on right around our neighborhood. They're wonderful things to bring the family to, and I hope that you'll enjoy them all. So let me just tell you about the hot spot in the literary scene is none other than Westerly, Rhode Island. It is a mecca for wonderful things happening among authors and words. So get your calendars out and give a look and a listen to what I'm going to tell you. What I've started is something called Literary Salon. Literary Salon actually has as its beginnings in the early 18th century by the French. There were people who were simply bored living in Paris, and they wanted an opportunity to share ideas, and that became the beginnings of what we call a literary salon. And it was also, interestingly enough, a place where women had a place in society. Women did not have many opportunities to be known or seen in French society, but the literary salon gave them this unique opportunity where they could bring writers of all kinds, artists of all kinds, musicians of all kinds, and bring them to usually places where the nobility were for evenings of wonderful entertainment. It was also an opportunity in its history to bring commoners into royalty's premises. So it was an opportunity, because some writers weren't all from the nobility. It was an opportunity for some people who were just wonderful writers and philosophers to come and meet the royalty. And there's, of course, a long, long history of the arts being supported by rich patrons. I mean, we know that going back to the Renaissance, it was that kind of concept. And it began in terms of French society, as I said before, in the beginning of the 18th century. And so it was the beginning of having an opportunity to share ideas in a not necessarily a public way, but in a private salon, usually in the home of some kind of noble. And I'm taking that premise and taking it a little bit differently. Of course, mine is a completely egalitarian system. Women and men are the same, and certainly we don't have any royalty living among us here in this part of the world. So I want to tell you about what we have forthcoming in Westerly, a little hotbed of literary intrigue. First coming up is the literary salon we have is Books and Brews. And just like the name suggests, we want to go ahead and promote not necessarily drinking beer, but having something nice to drink in a casual atmosphere is an opportunity for local authors to read. And we are very fortunate that the Malted Barley, which is a great pub restaurant in downtown Westerly, Rhode Island, is going to be the host for Literary Salon Books and Brews. And this will take place the fourth Tuesday of every month, starting March 27th. And we hope to continue to go forward into the spring and into the summer. So this is a wonderful opportunity to meet local writers and even buy their books and get them autographed and get a sense of the wonderful creativity that is going on in this part of the world. It is just wonderful. And there are authors who are well known, and there are authors who are actually not known at all. And this is an opportunity for all to have a voice. And when you come, we would like you to listen to the authors. It's upstairs in a private room. It's a beautiful setting, and you can sit and listen, and hopefully you'll sift much of the craft beer that can be found at the Malted Barley. And he also makes a great pretzel sandwich. So there's all kinds of variations on pretzels. What could be better? Beer and pretzels and authors. And so we strongly encourage you to come on down to downtown Westerly on the fourth Tuesday of each month, starting in March, where you'll be able to hear some local authors and, of course, have some nice opportunity to sip that craft beer. I've taken that concept and I'm going to go even further with it. So I now have also Literary Salon, Wine and Words. And there we have this unique opportunity to work with a downtown Westerly business called Tapped Apple, which actually makes cider and wine right on the premises on High Street. So this is another business in downtown Westerly that is opening up its doors to young and old talent who want to read from their many writings. We hope to have poets and writers of fiction and nonfiction, perhaps even some performance pieces, all done for you. And again, we want you to come down and see us on the third Wednesday, and this will start on March 21st. So you have your Wednesdays and your Thursdays at the latter part of the month, all booked to come and hear great literature, fun literature, lovely poetry, and either sip your beer or sip your wine. And I have to give a shout out to all these people who own these restaurants who are allowing us to do this. And it's a way of what I'd call a kind of symbiotic relationship. It helps to increase traffic at some of these restaurants and the winery, and at the same time it gives this opportunity for lots and lots of writers to get themselves known to the public. So I really encourage people, please come on out and visit us on the fourth Tuesday and the third Wednesday in downtown Westerly, Rhode Island. And if you want more information about these events, or if you're a writer, a poet, and you would like an opportunity to have a platform for that, please contact me at graysonharriet@gmail.com. If you can't remember that, you can always contact the studio, sec-tv.org. That's the studio, and they'll get the message to me. So I'm always looking for writers. I'm looking for poets. I'm even looking for playwrights who have a small, short piece, 10, 12 minutes, and they want an opportunity to see an audience reaction. I myself have dabbled in playwriting, and I know it doesn't live until it has an audience where it's actually spoken and you can feel or connect or disconnect with the audience, and you know whether or not you're on target. So this is a great opportunity. So for all our artists out there, please let me know that you want to read, give me a contact, GraysonHarriet@gmail, or just get in contact with the studio. So Westerly, Rhode Island is going to be the hot spot for literary events come March into the rest of the spring and into the summer. And as the weather gets more and more beautiful, it's just this great opportunity to kind of stroll down the streets of High Street in downtown Westerly and look at some of the other restaurants that are out there. And I encourage you all to come on out. The other thing I wanted to let you guys all know about is something that I have this great fascination with, and that is Bloom's Day. And that is the celebration of the publication of James Joyce's book, Ulysses. And I'm trying to work out a program where across downtown Westerly, there'll be a bunch of different venues, and we will actually be reading from James Joyce's Ulysses. And I'm looking for a number of venues that I'm working on, working with the Savoy Bookstore and Cafe in downtown Westerly as being one of our venues and perhaps the co-host for this adventure. This is something that is actually done, the celebration of Joyce's book is actually done throughout the English-speaking world. If you went to Dublin and you happened to be there June, and let me just double check my day, June 16th, which is the culmination of the publication of this book, you would actually be traveling the places where Leo Bloom traveled, as mentioned in Ulysses. I don't know how many of you have actually read the book, but it was groundbreaking, and it was censored for many years as well. But it is a great novel. It is considered to be the first major modern novel in English literature. And it represents a 24-hour telling of the adventures of our Leo Bloom. And what I would like to recreate in a certain way in downtown Westerly on this particular June 16th day is actually to have people go from venue to venue, and in each of these venues there'll be an opportunity for someone to read a chapter of Ulysses, and also to have the opportunity, continuing my idea of trying to get local authors an audience is to have some local authors also use this format to tell us about their books and read a little bit from their own books. So this is a wonderful opportunity. I myself had the opportunity to see this a few years ago when Symphony Space, which is in New York City on the Upper West Side, they actually read the entire novel over a 24-hour period. They get actors from the theater world to come and speak, and I hadn't been there for 24 hours. I couldn't possibly do that. But I did go there for a few hours, and it is a very engaging novel, and of course spoken by famous actors. It becomes just a giant theater piece. So I don't expect to be able to duplicate that activity, but I do hope to be able to use it as a way of perhaps making literature a lot of fun. And so I was, we'll go from place to place. We'll probably create some kind of little map of downtown Westerly. And I'm hoping to get engaged with the library and maybe the YMCA, which is all there downtown, with a number of other restaurants and other venues that might be willing to host this event. So it'll be a kind of fun-filled afternoon. It is on a Saturday, so I hope to maybe start in the late morning and work our way into the early evening. And to have our own guest local authors read, we'd start something probably in the morning with children's books and maybe get ourselves up to teen books and until the evening talking about adult literature. And of course, Bloomsday, as it represents this great celebration of James Joyce, is not a book for children. It is, number one, it's massive, and number two, it deals with subjects that are not necessarily for children. But it is a great, great classic, and if you weren't forced to read it while you were in school, I highly recommend it. And since we're so hoping to have June 16 as our Bloomsday, it'll give you an opportunity to be prepared. I'm looking for, in fact, not only local authors to read, but actually readers of Joyce who want to be part of this event. So if you are interested and you love Joyce, or after you read it, you're just enthralled by it and would like to read it publicly, let me know. Again, it's Grayson Harriet at gmail.com, or actually contact me here at the studio. I love to have audience input, and I would love to have people get involved in this project because, again, maybe next year, we'll do it in a different location. I happen to live in Westerly, so I find it's downtown really quite condensed so that you can do a lot of moving around and tasting different kinds of foods at all the little restaurants. There's the United Theater that has performances now and then. So all of this stuff makes it very, very conducive to the arts world. And so that's why I call Little Westerly, Rhode Island, the hot spot for creativity in the arts and literature. And I'm hoping to be this kind of promoter of this going forward. And there's lots of activity to be able to fulfill that. And I'm hoping to get everything going by next month, by March. So again, you can contact me if you are a writer and you want to get involved with either these monthly local author readings, or if you want to get involved with Bloomsday on June 16th. I know there's a lot of creativity out there, and I'm looking to kind of promote it and get an audience for it. I know people, once they have an opportunity to get a feel for James Joyce's Ulysses, I know that they'll enjoy it tremendously. And once you get to hear some of our local authors, you'll understand what it is that they do and how important it is to support them, to buy their books, to come to the Malted Barley and the Tapped Apple and use their wonderful, wonderful places to hear these authors read. So again, I invite you all to keep in touch, and I will on my website, which is communitycultureshowcase.weebly.com, which is actually right behind me in the sign, I will start putting up some information so that you can follow along with what we're doing, and then you can participate if you want to. And of course, we always need an audience, so we want people to come on down to that fourth Tuesday and third Wednesday to hear those local writers, and also then, of course, to drink apple wine and drink craft beer. I mean, it's just what we're looking to do to enrich the community and to have a place where authors can have their readings done. It's just a wonderful opportunity. And I also want to let you know, this studio, SEC TV, is a nonprofit. And several times during the course of the year, we hold art shows, which support this studio. I mean, it's everybody's needing extra money. It's doesn't come free to operate the studio. There are all kinds of expenses. So I'm always looking for ways that people can contribute. And of course, you can always just send in a donation to sec-tv.org, and we'll be happy to take your money. And we are a charitable institution, so you do get a tax deduction for that. But we also look to have some interesting cultural events. That is a mechanism for us also to raise some funds. So we're talking about this spring having another art show. And I say another art show is because our last one was so successful. We had it as our theme, pets. Lots of people love pets, and so it was a big thing for people to come and see all the kinds of paintings, oil, watercolor, pastels that people had used in painting, drawing their pets. Could have been their pets or somebody else's pets. We want to have a different theme. We like to have themes. And so going forward in our springtime art show, we're going to use the theme of portraits. So that, if you're artists out there and you paint portraits, we want you to be part of our art show. So let us know, again, Grayson Harriet at Gmail, or contact the studio directly, because we're going to plan this in the late spring. We'd like to have a lot of notice for people to get ready. And so if you're a portrait painter, please let us know, and we would love to exhibit your work at our next art show. And the idea of portraits is something that is actually quite old. I mean, that people have been painting portraits for centuries. And in fact, we have in the United States a very famous portrait gallery, which is part of the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., which opened in the 1960s. And you might be remotely knowledgeable about it because President Obama and his wife Michelle, actually their portraits were actually displayed for the very first time. I guess it was about a week or two ago. And there's lots of chuckling because it was interesting in terms of the portrait artists, both being non-Caucasian and one of them being a woman. So that made some headlines in terms of who the artists were, as well as who were the object of the portraits. So portrait painting is, as I said, an old thing. It's been around for centuries, and it has it's oftentimes in the beginning was a way for the wealthy to have their portraits taken as a way of just continuing whatever generations there might be. So a husband might, as a gift to a wife, have a painting done of his spouse, or maybe of the children, or maybe intergenerational. And so portrait painting is a very, very old and esteemed way of for artists to make a living, and for people who, particularly the wealthy, wanted to have a way to be actually enshrined, to become immortal, was to forget a portrait painting. And of course, we've had some in New England, has been the home of some very famous portrait painters, including Gilbert Stuart. And his museum is actually in Rhode Island, and you can take a look at some of his paintings. You can probably go online and just Google Gilbert Stuart Museum, and you can get some information about visiting with him and at least his home, and then see some of the things that he has done. Now, the President's Portrait Gallery is started with George Washington, and Gilbert Stuart was actually famous for portraying our first president. And it's gone along. Every single president has had his portrait done and is actually installed at the Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C., at one of the Smithsonian institutions. And if you know anything about the Smithsonian, your tax money goes to support it. So there is no admission. So if you ever in the Washington, D.C. area, by all means, go and visit and see the portrait gallery, and you'll see, lots and lots of other very famous museums that are supported by the Smithsonian, which is, in many ways, the People's Museum, since we pay for it. So, and there are other Smithsonian museums in other parts of the country. There's some in New York, and there are others in other parts of the country. But again, if you're interested, please take a trip or just go online and take a look at some of the portraits that have been done. And so we, stealing an idea that has been around, as I said, for centuries, wish to have as our next art show, the theme will be portraits. So if you know someone who likes to draw portraits, and we look for local talent. You don't have to have been award winners. We do have some aesthetic taste, so it's not anything. It can't be cartoon drawings. It really has to be something substantial. But we are open, and in many ways, if you have young people, maybe that's one of the first things they learn is to do some portraits. College students, high school students. By all means, we would certainly entertain looking at your work and then make a decision about whether or not to display it at our next art show. We are discriminating without being elitist, so that we love to promote young and local art. But we have some artists that have displayed their work here who have been in their 80s and 90s, and we have some who have been much younger. So we like all kinds of ages, all kinds of folks to display their work here. So again, our theme for the springtime is going to be portraits, in keeping with the very old tradition of painting people. And of course, as we all know, prior to having access to photography, which became the cheap way for people to get a portrait, this was the way that people were known forever, enshrined in color, in paint and pencil, through a portrait. So I hope that you'll keep an eye, and you can go to our website, sec-tv.org, and we will give you updates about information about our upcoming event, so that you might, if you are a portrait painter, talk to us, and then certainly bring your work to us to assess whether or not you would like to have it hung in this gallery, or whether or not you want to give it a rest somewhere else. We also are interested in not only paintings, but if you are a photographer. So photography portraits, which evolved into becoming how the rest of the middle class and lower class people in this country got to be enshrined, it was through photography. So if you are a photographer and you do portraits, we're also interested in looking at your work. And we are a nonprofit organization, so we work very, very well with artists. We are very generous, unlike perhaps a private gallery. We are not in the business of trying to make a lot of money off of our art shows. We merely want to get our name there and, of course, hopefully pick up a few dollars to keep the show running. My show and all the other shows, the lights, the cameras, the staff, it all costs money, and we're looking forward to having some assistance from our wonderful public. We hear from you now and then, so we want to hear from you in a very positive way for our next springtime art show. Remember, the theme is portraits. And again, I want to remind people about other literary things that are going on and cultural stuff that's going on. We also are in this area, in Mystic, in New London, and in Westerly, Rhode Island. We'll be part of an international film festival that will begin in early May and run through the month of May. The venues include the Gard Arts Center in New London, Connecticut. Also, there is the Mystic Cinemas in Old Mystic Village, which will also be a host. Connecticut College is a host. And for the very first time, the United Theater, a renovated, in progress theater in downtown Westerly, Rhode Island, will also be the host of one of one of these films. These films come from all over the world. I am very fortunate to be part of this film committee, which is sponsored by the Jewish Federation of Eastern Connecticut. We bring films from all over the world to our local areas, Mystic, New London, Westerly, Rhode Island this year, and hope to entertain people with things that they probably would never see. We have films already selected that include places from Israel, from Lebanon, from Denmark, from the United States. So we get a wide variety. We'll be showing, it's going to be 8 films this year. Again, at several locations. There will be at least, I believe, 5 venues. As I mentioned, the Guard Art Center, the Mystic Cinemas, which is in the Old Mystic Village, Connecticut College. It's a PB Learned Center, which is in New London, and then at the United Theater in Westerly, Rhode Island. So we're going to have a bunch of wonderful, wonderful films. I must have viewed 50 films, and then we select 7 or 8. I mean, it's an amazing process that we go through. We are all volunteers. We come from everywhere from Old Lyme and Colchester to, as I do, from Westerly to New London and Mystic, and we get together over the course of months viewing all kinds of films. And it's a very difficult process. And it was, for me, it's been an extremely fun event because it's taught me about what's involved in a film festival. It's not simply getting a film. The process of getting a film is actually very complicated. It isn't like you go to the director and ask for a copy. You need to go through these distributors. And there's middlemen and middlemen and middlemen in terms of how even the Mystic Cinema actually gets its films that it shows. It's a complicated process. And interestingly, because we're dealing with international films, and these are not blockbusters, there's no Avengers, there's no Marvel comics, these are art house kinds of films. The prices actually change. And sometimes when they're up for awards, then they have one price, and then if they don't win the award, the price drops. It's quite interesting. It's a kind of Adam Smith supply and demand system that one would never have thought about. So we do a very, very good job. We have a wonderful program that we produce, which we heartily like endorsements and support from our community businesses in Mystic, in New London, as well as in Westerly, to support the event, because this is a complicated and actually costly kind of thing to do, and we've been doing it for more than 2 decades. This will be our 24th film festival, so we're looking forward to having an audience, and we'll, again, on communitycultureshowcase.weebly.com, I'll be putting up information about the film festival and its schedule. It's just about finalized, and we produce a beautiful program that has information about all the films and also all of our supporters, because, again, I said it's a complicated and actually costly thing to actually put together. But we enjoy doing it, and we've been doing it. As I said, this will be our 24th year, so it's something that we've gotten quite good at. And there is a committee that, as I said, we go through about 50 films. Now, most of them, and then we vote. We vote on whether or not we want to move it. If we start this process like 6 months ago, we start to see the movies. You've got to take notes because you could not possibly remember the plot lines of most of the movies that you're going to be seeing and who's in it and how long it is. We measure all these things about the length of it, looking at documentaries versus feature films. We've this year have quite a number of what I call docudramas. So they are feature films, but they kind of tell a story that is true, or at least based on facts. Now, filmmakers will always go forward and reshape that, you know that, but it's an interesting way to tell a story. And we have We've got several of them on the program this year. They happen to have been some of the more interesting films that we saw. We also saw quite a number of documentaries themselves. And then we also show shorts, anywhere from 5 to 12 minutes. And we've selected a number of shorts to go with the feature films. So that we give you a really nice, rounded kind of movie experience. And oftentimes at the Guard, we would put on a reception, so there'll be little goodies to eat to go along with that. And we usually have speakers that are relevant to who the film is about or what it's about. And so every year we have some kinds of speakers, not for all of the films, but for the ones that seem to make the most sense in terms of having people to speak about that. We are fortunate in that we are a little hubbub of not only creativity in terms of the arts community, but also in terms of colleges. So that we have we often go to the colleges and look for academics who might have written about a subject and ask them to come and prepare a short little discussion piece. And it's an opportunity for the audience actually to become engaged with people who have chosen the film to talk about something about the film. And then most of the films range in timing from about 90 minutes to a little over 2 hours. So we try to make it not a 3-hour, 4-hour marathon at the same time, not 55 minutes, but to make some kind of in between where we think the audience will still keep on watching, and at the same time make it reasonable in terms of what you can expect as a moviegoer. So this is a fun thing to do. I don't know that many people have actually know about it, and so let me broadcast it again. The International Film Festival, it starts in early May, goes through the month of May. We have a host of films from all over the world that will be entertaining, and many times thought-provoking, because we do have a comedy this year, but we often also have I wouldn't want to label them as heavy, but they are thought-provoking. They talk about subjects that make you want to think. Some of the subjects have to do with the Holocaust. Some of them just have to do with the idea of whether or not that you can tell if something is right or wrong. And then many times, especially during times of war, being right also has consequences which might be deadly to you and your family. So it is actually a mystery as well as something that you should not have expect, that people will be courageous. They'll come forward and they'll do the kinds of things that they do, either to save another human being or to let the world know what's going on. And that kind of activity, we'll have a few films that will talk about these kinds of thought-provoking ideas that go to the strength of the human spirit, about what we can do to save our human beings. There's a famous line in many religious texts that talk about how one person, just one person, can save the world. And you see it in all kinds of religious texts about this whole idea that all of us, each one of us, can make a difference in the world. And so we have a few films that address that very, very important issue about making a difference in the world, not only for the film in terms of its specificity about a particular event, but to kind of make you think, because we have all kinds of crazy events going on in the world, that one person can actually change the world, can save the world from itself. So I invite you to come in to my website, and also you might be seeing some advertising and marketing of the film festival. I hope you heard it here first, and that you'll get your interest piqued, and you'll be looking forward to going to the Guard and Mystic Cinemas and Connecticut College and PJ Leonard, as well as the United Theater in downtown Westerly, Rhode Island. So I have tried to give you a little idea about what's going on. You are living in one of the most interesting communities in the country. We are not only physically beautiful in terms of our geography here in southeastern Connecticut and western Rhode Island, but we also the home of this bubbling creativity. Artists, writers, painters, photographers, they're all here, and they're always looking for platforms to be able to show their work to the world. And I'm happy to be part of a push to get us going here. So I have created these literary salons. I hope that you will come and visit, and if you are a writer, to participate. We're always looking for things that are interesting, and we have writers of fiction, nonfiction, history, children's book writers, and we may have actually some playwrights who will give us a few performance pieces. So we're going to offer you variety. It's absolutely free. There is no cost involved in attending. We ask only that you show goodwill towards our restaurant hosts and the winery by at least tasting what they have to offer. So this is Harriet Grayson, and I've hoped I've been able to give you a snapshot of what's going on in our communities so that you can bask in its glory. Make sure all your friends and family come visit Springtime, because we have so many opportunities for them to enlarge and enhance their lives, as well as some of the most beautiful scenery in the country and maybe in the world. So this is your host and producer, Harriet Grayson, who has just trying to give you a snapshot of what's going on in our wonderful coastal communities. I hope you'll listen again as we continue to give you more information. And again, go online, communitycultureshowcase.weebly.com, for information about these events. And also please contact the studio, sec-tv.org. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you at one of our many, many events.